Because who wants to be duped, right? Are you someone who loves clean beauty but doesn't know if you're actually getting what you're paying for? Does it live up to the hype, or is it all fake and greenwashed? Keep watching to find out which greenwashing brands of cosmetics I'm anti-hauling, so you can save yourself the headache and potential health effects of being duped into buying something that may be deceptively marketed. For the absolute best tips and tricks to slash your toxic exposure so you can live healthier, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every single week. What's up? Welcome back to my channel. I am Dr. Yvonne, and I'm a board-certified toxicologist and chemical ingredient safety expert on a mission to help you reduce your toxic exposure without compromising on product performance or spending hours researching ingredient safety. So let's jump right in. The only real way to know if a product or company is greenwashing is by looking at the ingredient label. Here is the definition of greenwashing, which, by the way, is subjective, but there is a general consensus. Greenwashing is considered an unsubstantiated claim to deceive consumers into believing that a company's products are environmentally friendly. Examples of greenwashing beauty companies that you probably already know about are Origins and The Body Shop. A big problem we're facing is the not so obvious brands that are greenwashing. So let's get right into the greenwashing clean beauty brands that I'm anti-hauling, which are brands that I won't buy, and some of the marketing buzzwords they like to use. I'm sharing this not to bash or invalidate, because it's completely each person's choice what they're willing to expose themselves to. So the purpose of this video is to share my expert opinion on why these brands aren't living up to the marketing claims, so you can make the most informed decision for yourself. Basically, you deserve to know what they're not telling you. The first brand I'm anti-hauling is Arbonne. They use marketing claims like holistic and clean, which gives the impression that they prioritize your health and the environment. They're a certified B Corp, which is a marketing tool that is used by companies to gain credibility. I'm anti-hauling Arbonne for several reasons. Number one, poor quality ingredients, specifically in cosmetics that are marketed as non-toxic. So examples of those would be synthetic silicones, which can appear on the label as dimethicone or cyclopentylsiloxane. There are concerns that synthetic silicones don't actually biodegrade. So how eco-friendly are these products? Another reason I avoid this brand is the significant use of synthetic ingredients. So let me be clear by saying not all synthetics are bad, but it's unclear if their ingredients are synthesized from petroleum, which carries several risk factors in and of itself. So first, petroleum is derived from crude oil, which contains naturally occurring carcinogens known as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. Furthermore, drilling and mining of crude oil is an environmentally devastating practice. This brand, like many others, also uses phenoxyethanol. This is a controversial ingredient and is one of the most widely used, which is why there is a concern in the first place. There was actually a study published in 2019 that found phenoxyethanol in 49% of consumer products in Italy. In fact, phenoxyethanol was a cheap swap for parabens when studies were published linking parabens to endocrine disruption and possibly breast cancer. So consumers became aware of parabens and started avoiding products containing it. Therefore, companies swapped it out for phenoxyethanol. The problem really is, when you have a commonly used ingredient across many products, the exposure levels can be exceeded even though the individual product levels might still be safe. And so, in case you didn't know, more frequent and regular use of an ingredient can lead to sensitization and allergic reactions. Not to mention, phenoxyethanol, along with several other commonly used preservatives, actually disrupt your skin's microbiome, as shown in a study published in 2019. Another similar brand I'm anti-hauling is Beautycounter. This company is one of the biggest players in the clean beauty movement and also B Corp certified. Love to emphasize their lobbying efforts to change cosmetic regulations, but are their products actually clean? The main problems that I have found with Beautycounter is, number one, their lack of transparency when it comes to heavy metals testing. So there are reports of health-conscious consumers that have reached out to Beautycounter management for further clarification on testing levels and detection limits for heavy metals, particularly in their colorants. and not being able to get a direct answer or being able to see the actual measurements. So I did see a page on their website where they explain how sensitive their measurements are, which is good to know. However, based on their ingredients glossary, they're using natural oxides to pigment their products, which carry the risk of containing heavy metals, since that's where they're mined from and that's where heavy metals are found. So which brings up another concern. Why bother mining for mineral pigments, testing them for heavy metals, and destroying the environment while putting miners at risk when you can easily use lab-created or synthetic oxides that don't contain heavy metals? Food for thought. Another reason I avoid and anti-haul this brand is the use of ingredients with questionable safety. Talc is something that they are apparently phasing out, but it is contaminated with asbestos. So that means that their products have not been completely devoid of talc. There is still the risk of inhalation. Inhalation of asbestos causes mesothelioma, a rare form of lung cancer, and talc has also been reported to cause an adult male who inhaled it to collapse. In case you didn't know, talc actually dries up the airways and impairs our airways' natural ability to clear particulate matter, which is a protective mechanism. So by impairing our protective mechanisms, it is causing toxicity. So the problem really is the risk of using talc outweighs the benefits, and it's probably likely only used because it's cheap. They also use phenoxyethanol, which is a red flag. And like Arbonne, Beauty Counter also uses a significant amount of synthetic ingredients. They claim to be transparent and list all the ingredients they use in their products, but it's unclear if they're synthesized from petroleum. Not to mention, there were some ingredients in the product information pages on their website that weren't actually listed in the ingredient glossary. There's also ethical considerations because they use a pigment called carmine, which is made from crushed red bugs. And they also like to use isolated fragrance chemicals, which can cause allergic reactions even if they are derived from natural sources. So give me a hell yes down in the comments if you have ever noticed greenwashing in the beauty industry. The third greenwashing brand I'm anti-hauling is Monad. They make skin and hair products that are very widely marketed on social media. One of their main marketing claims is naturally based, which is completely ambiguous, subjective, and undefined. It implies that at one point, maybe perhaps there was a natural starting material such as a plant involved, but it's not clear how much processing has taken place and what you're actually getting in the bottle. How natural is that? The problem is not that an ingredient is synthetic or man-made, but rather how it is processed and how close it is coming to being an isolated chemical ingredient as opposed to a complex mixture, which is what is found in a whole plant extract. Isolated chemicals are when you can get into overexposure and therefore toxicity. The fourth brand I'm anti-hauling is Tula Skincare. They claim to be clean and is extremely heavily marketed on social media by influencers. It's literally plastered everywhere, and I'm being retargeted all the time by their ads. They mention on their website that this brand was developed by a gastroenterologist, and I'm wondering if that is supposed to make us somehow feel better or safer because a doctor developed it. FYI, most doctors have not studied toxicity or safety, so I take their recommendations with a huge grain of salt. The biggest concern with this brand is their use of synthetic or chemical sunscreen. These are known endocrine disruptors acknowledged by the Endocrine Society that they specifically decrease sperm function and cause environmental toxicity. So the ones that I'm referring to are avobenzone, homosalate, and octisalate. Synthetic sunscreens, by the way, also cause coral reef destruction and therefore environmental devastation, and have actually been banned from over-the-counter sales in Hawaii, so you can only get them with a prescription. So ask yourself, how clean is this brand if they're willing to use toxic synthetic sunscreen chemicals? So the problems with greenwashing, first of all, is that it is deceptive and misleading. This is really the most detrimental for people with pre-existing conditions like asthma, eczema, or psoriasis and can't seem to find relief from the products that they're using no matter how clean they are, or just by anyone who wants to avoid toxicants as much as possible. So it's really misleading when companies greenwash because a lot of the terms they use have nothing to do with safety. Another practice I've noticed is sustainable packaging, but the use of toxic ingredients. How does that help? You're still creating toxic waste that needs to be dumped somewhere and definitely could end up causing a toxic spill. So how do you spot greenwashing? Brands like to use unregulated buzzwords that have no government definition, and they like to use it to make you feel like a product is natural, safe, non-toxic, and even organic. USDA organic, by the way, is the only government regulated term that has specific guidelines set by the USDA. They also like to use specific colors, anything that would remind you of anything natural or being in nature, like green or blue. Images like leaves, plants, and flowers, again, to make you feel like something is more plant-based and therefore healthy. A common greenwashing tactic is actually highlighting organic or plant ingredients and extracts, regardless of how little that product may actually contain. They also love to point out the ingredients of concern that consumers are trying to avoid. So parabens and phthalates and sulfates. They talk about being cruelty-free and non-GMO, which by the way has nothing to do with safety. But the real issue is the deceptive marketing under the guise that a product is somehow healthier or safer than a conventional one. So as a toxicologist, in my professional opinion, a truly safe and healthy product does not contain ingredients or use practices that cause harm or toxicity to anyone along the entire process of production, including the occupational workers, the environment, and also to you, the end user, the consumer. That's why I choose and personally recommend products that contain as many organic ingredients as possible in glass or zero waste packaging to mitigate the impact on the environment and also our exposure to plasticizers. So if you want to see some of the organic makeup brands that I've actually found on Amazon, check out this video. And if you are on a budget or just love to DIY, check out the videos that I'm going to link below in the description box, where I show you recipes that I tried and personally love. So there you have it, all the greenwashing brands of cosmetics I avoid and anti-haul. And remember, the only real way to avoid being duped by greenwashing brands is to educate yourself about ingredients so that you can see through the deceptive marketing and never get played ever again. If you don't know how to read and understand an ingredient label, check out this free guide I created called the Safe Ingredient Rulebook, which shows you the exact steps you need to take to become a toxin-free product boss and never waste precious time or money on greenwashed or overpriced products that don't even work. So go ahead and click the link down in the description to grab this incredible free resource. So if you like this video, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. And with that said, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.